Well, the chair of the bank regulator, the Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority, Wayne Byres, today said he'll step down on October 30, almost 18 months before the end of his term in 2024. Byres has presided over APRA for 8 years now, but his organisation has been heavily criticised by the Hayne Banking Royal Commission and also by an independent review that in 2019 slammed it for being slow to respond and unwilling to challenge itself. The head of that review was former ACCC Chairman Graeme Samuel, who joins me now. Graeme, many thanks for your time. I just want to get your reaction to Wayne Byres standing down. I notice the bankers are saying he's done a wonderful job and built the reserves of our banks to strong positions. Is this the legacy he leaves behind?
I think he does. I'd have to say to you that we've been blessed with two successive chairs of APRA, John Laker until 2014 and then Wayne Byres in the 8 years since. We've got to remember that the fundamental requirement of APRA is to ensure the financial stability of our financial markets. That is of our financial organisations, the banks, insurance companies and the like. And we've been through a number of crises. Clearly in 2008, the global financial crisis. Since then, we've been through a series of issues, not the least of which have been COVID. And not once through any of that period of time have we had to be troubled or worried or concerned about the stability of our major financial institutions. Now, credit for that has to go to those two chairs, John Laker and Wayne Byres. And without any question, and we said so in our capability review, Wayne Byres has demonstrated an extraordinary ability, almost unequalled ability, to be able to conduct the financial, prudential, regulatory requirements of APRA and to have the settings absolutely right to ensure that our financial institutions are and remain stable. So I think that's all the good part. It really is good. And I think that Wayne can go out from his term as chair of APRA with that pinned very, very proudly to his chest. That's something that he should be very proud of. The concerns we had during the review were these. There was a fundamental disagreement between Wayne and myself over the issue of transparency of regulator operations. When I first commenced the review, along with Diane Smith-Gander, a leading company director, and Grant Spencer, the former deputy governor of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, the first thing that Wayne said to us was, we rely upon secrecy in our dealings with the major financial institutions, the major banks. And he said, we do that because that's the way we get cooperation from them. And I raised my eyebrows and said, but Wayne, as a former regulator with the ACCC, I'm well aware that you don't seek the if you like, how to describe it? You don't seek the good grace of the organisations that you are regulating by saying to them, well, look, we'll keep things secret. We'll negotiate with you secretly if you'll cooperate with us. Their cooperation was not their gift, it was their obligation. But Wayne was insistent on that. And in fact, that was a message given to us by all the major banks when they came to see us. They said, Graeme, don't worry about transparency. Cooperation is what we give APRA, and in return, we negotiate in private, we negotiate secretly. So that was a fundamental area of disagreement. The other thing that I think I was a little bit surprised about, because Wayne is an extraordinarily intelligent and analytical-based person, is that when you've got three leading people, I'll leave myself out of that if you like, but when you've got a leading company director in Diane Smith-Gander and the former deputy governor of the Reserve Bank, together with myself, saying there are issues you ought to be looking at, Wayne, in relation to the structure of APRA, its organisational capability, some of the things that he was and was not doing in the area of regulation technology, RegTech, and the development of technology to assist in the regulatory process. You ought to really be thinking again about this issue of transparency in your dealings. He was resistant to that. And I would have thought that a really good regulator would say, here are three people who are well experienced. They're offering some advice to you. Take it. Look at it seriously and perhaps look at how things might change as a result. Now, he was not Robinson Crusoe in that, Ross. I have to say to you, Greg Metcalfe did exactly the same thing when a group of three leading individuals in the corporate world, including a senior lawyer, were to turn around and say the same thing about ASIC, that it need to look at various things about what it was doing. And Metcalfe resisted that and rejected it. And I just think that a good regulator, a good leader, will look and will say, I think I ought to have a look at this. I think I ought to deal with it accordingly. Now, I'm not sure what happened to our report because it went to the Treasurer. I'm not sure what happened as a result of all that. I haven't seen any significant changes that occurred other than, of course, the appointment of other members, fine standing persons, by the way, from my own assessment, other members of APRA. And it may well be that from that collection, the new chair of APRA is appointed. It may well be that the new Treasurer will look for an external appointment. I don't know.
So, Graeme, I just want to jump in there because quite clearly you've had some reservations over some of the capacity, some of the people there. There was also what, of course, the Hayne Royal Commission came down with. And there's a quote which I can throw up on the screen right now from the Hayne Royal Commission, which was quite famous in some ways. It was a case whereby it effectively says ASIC rarely went to court to seek public denunciation and punishment for misconduct. The Prudential regulator, APRA, never went to court. Now, as having run the ACCC, which does go to court and is prepared to try and create law by going to court, this seemed, I think, a surprise to most people that it would not take our banks to court.
Well, I think let's leave aside the issue about going to court because it's one of the areas where Ken Hayne, who's a good friend of mine, and I've had a discussion, and I'm not so sure that the measurement of success is going to court. But there are processes of enforcement. I think that what Ken Hayne did in the Royal Commission report was to say ASIC and APRA, in his view, had failed some fundamental tests of being a strong, rigorous regulator. Now, if I had that in a Royal Commission report, and then it's followed up by a capability review undertaken by 3 individuals, one of whom, myself, had experience as head of a regulator for 8 years, one of whom had been a deputy governor of a Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and one of whom was a leading company director, I'd probably say to myself, I better have a bit of a look at this. I better have a look at some introspection, because that's the sort of thing that a good leader does. And I guess I was just disappointed that Wayne didn't embrace all that and to say, rather than defensively, look, I'm just not going to pursue these sort of issues. If I've been Wayne, I think what I would have done as a good leader is to say, I better have a look at this. There's too many people, Ken Hayne and then these 3 members of the capability review, supported by the way, I might say, by an outstanding secretariat of analysts from Treasury, and equally supported by some comments that came through in a survey we did of the staff of APRA, which had some quite scathing comments in it about the culture of APRA. And I think in all those circumstances, if I'd been leading the organisation, I'd have said, I better have a look. I better conduct a serious piece of introspection with the advice that's been provided by this capability review and by the Hayne Royal Commission.
Indeed. Graeme Samuel, chair of that APRA Capability Review and also former chair of the ACCC. Always good to chat to you, Graeme, and many thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Ross.